Well. Welcome to the Criterion Connection. I'm Wade.
And I'm Scott.
And we're here to talk about, what movie are we talking about, Scott?
It's on here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, La Bamba.
Yes.
We're watching we watched La Bamba.
New release for the Criterion collection this month, as of this recording.
One of my low-key favorite movies.
I know. When I saw La Bamba, I was like, oh, Scott's going to do this. I know it.
So I've only seen this movie maybe 6 times in my life. A lot as a teenager. A lot of those times was as a teenager. I think I only watched it as an adult twice. This being the second.
I've only seen it twice.
And I remember this and Selena being two movies that I watched at my grandmother's house. For whatever reason, when we went over there, I guess they were just always on.
When's Criterion gonna be releasing Selena?
I don't know. I like that movie.
Come on.
But I like this movie, especially as a teenager. You know, I went through a big phase in my life where I was really into 50s music. So obviously, Richie Valens is someone you pick up with, along with, your others, your Eddie Cochran's, obviously Elvis Presley, your Little Richards, and stuff along that line.
Your Buddy Holly.
Oh
gosh.
Crickets.
Oh gosh.
The Big Bopper.
Oh my gosh. Why am I blanking the Great Balls of Fire?
Jerry Lee Lewis.
I was blanking on his name. That was crazy. But yeah.
You know what? You might have been just too young for him. Kind of like his one wife. Heyo.
1987's La Bamba by Luis Valdez, introducing
Lou Diamond Phillips
and a lot of other actors, including our favorite Joey Pants.
Joey
Pantoliano.
I always feel like I'm mispronouncing his name, even though I know I say it right. So I just call him Joey Pants.
He's just Ralphie from Sopranos. But
not only that, a balding.
Yes.
Joey Pants. Now I do wonder, because I've not looked up the character he played to know if it's even a real person or not, and B, if it was, I don't know if they were balding like that. So I'm curious if that was just a choice.
I think it may have just been a choice.
But there were a lot of choices in this movie that I'll get into a little later.
But it's basically a biopic, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, you can call it a biopic.
Yeah. It's biopic, I think, is just like they're doing like a biopsy.
Yeah, it sounds very medical. Very medical.
So it's about Richie Valens.
Yes.
Who had a career of like a year.
No, not even. I looked it up, and they mentioned 8 months, but technically I think it was like 9-ish. So basically, in the amount of time it takes for a baby to be, conceived and born, ideally, that was his career. In fact, all of his full-length albums were released after his death. He was only alive for like maybe 2 of the singles.
Yeah, so he was pretty big. He's a big rising kind of star.
Very fast.
And he gets on a plane with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper, and was there anyone else on the plane? But obviously the pilots.
That's one of those things where it depends on who tells the story. I've heard stories, because I didn't know Waylon Jennings was in the Crickets back in the day, and he has said on numerous occasions that he was supposed to be on the flight, but I forget the reasoning, but he switched with someone else. It's not the same guy from the movie. From what I've heard, the plane was bigger than the movie leads on.
Yeah.
It was more than just them. They weren't the only ones that
It wasn't
died.
a biplane.
But, well, no, this plane went more than just both ways.
I know.
But but Waylon Jennings tells the story that he was supposed to be on the flight. I guess he lost the coin toss like in the movie or something, and ended up not going, and he says it saved his life, and I mean, it did. And look at the career he had.
Yeah, they basically got on a plane, and the plane crashed, and of course, when you watch the movie, when Buddy Holly's like, oh, the bus broke down, we're going to take this plane. You're like, no, don't do it.
Yes.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
Also,
it's not a trap, but you know what I mean.
Also, one thing that I thought about, especially at that scene, was, okay, so we got La Bamba, the story of Richie Valens.
Yeah.
We have the Buddy Holly story, starring Gary Busey as Buddy Holly. How come we never got the Big Bopper?
The Bop.
Oh, no, I was going to say we'll call it Goodbye, Baby. That's the movie. And we never got it. The only thing I can think of is my wife had said maybe his life was too straight-laced and boring to make a movie.
Yes, it wasn't big. His life wasn't a big bop. He was just named.
Yeah, it was a front. It was a character.
Yeah, but we did get the Great Balls of Fire with Dennis Quaid.
Oh, that's right. That's a good movie too.
Yes,
I like that movie.
But yeah, this is. I mean, I don't know much to say about the film. It's a pretty good biopic.
I will pose a question to you. Okay, the poster, the DVD, everything else tells you the star of the movie is Lou Diamond Phillips, and it's about Richie Valens. But I ask you this: is it really about Richie Valens, or is it about Bob Morales, his brother? Because when you're watching that movie, there are a lot of times where you you wonder that. Like there's so many times I watch the movie and I think to myself, who was the star of
the
this?
Main character.
Who was the main character? Because everything, like Richie Valens is there and he does like things, but like it's pretty much the Bob Morales show for a good solid chunk of it.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's like a parallel with like Raging Bull of like how like Joe Pesci's character. He's kind of like, it's more of, I think you're watching from a different perspective. Like it's Bob's the one that's alive to tell the story
at the time. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018.
But yeah, he was alive to tell the story, so it's more of like they're getting a lot of his perception. I'm assuming. I don't know much about the behind the scenes. Maybe they talked.
It's funny.
To him.
It's funny you say that because I did look into this because every time I watch the movie, I always wonder how much of Bob is exaggerated. So he was an abusive husband, but not as abusive. Even his then ex-wife would say he wasn't that abusive, but he was abusive. He did start a few fights at some of Richie's early shows. But from what I heard, other than that, like he wasn't that bad of a father. He did abuse alcohol and drugs. And then at some point, like in the movie, he does clean up. Richie's death helped cause him to relapse. And what I appreciated was after he got cleaned up again for the final time, he actually became a addiction counselor, helping other people get through their addiction. So Bob,
is flawed.
He's flawed, but I think the version we got in the movie was like they really wanted a bad guy. They wanted a bad guy in a story that doesn't have a bad guy.
You wanted some sort of conflict.
Right.
It's one of those things that maybe they're embellishing a little bit because of. It's not like walk. I almost said walk hard. Walk the line.
Well, it's not like Walk Hard.
Walk the line where like you had like decades of Johnny Cash's like life.
Yeah, you barely have a year.
This one had like like maybe like some before he got famous, but it's mostly like around like maybe total 3-4 years around there.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe they're doing it to like embellish it. Remember, this is a movie, so
right.
you need an antagonist.
But I would argue that like tone down Bob and do more with the relationship between him and Donna and the father, make the father the bad guy.
Because the father should have been,
because he's clearly a racist with the way he describes his music. It's clearly like you got the inner race thing going on.
You got a little Romeo and Juliet.
You got a Romeo and Juliet thing happening, and again, he's got the song Donna, which is about her, which I do appreciate that it starts with like him singing it to her in the phone booth, and it's like I have a girl named Donna, and then once it's completely over, I had a girl. Yeah. And I thought that was a nice little touch. Yeah. I don't know how true that is. I couldn't find out. But,
I mean, this is basically the Lou Diamond Phillips movie.
Yeah, and he nails it. He really does.
When you think Lou Diamond Phillips, you think of two things. You think him in this movie and also Young Guns. You don't really think about Lou Diamond Phillips. Also, isn't he in Cop and a Half 2?
Yes, he was. And you know what? Cop and a Half 2 is not that bad. My wife and I watched it, and I enjoyed it, kind of.
Cop and Half 2 should be on Criterion.
I agree.
And Cop and Half 1.
Yeah, do a combo pack. It'll be great. And the best part is Criterion. You know how Criterion's known for like, a lot of like in-depth behind the scenes stuff. They'll get all that. But then they'll use their modern day technology to fix the shitty day for night.
Yeah.
In that one scene of Cop and a Half. And but the one thing I want more than anything is I want the subtitle for when Burt Reynolds yells, "Double!" and just see how they spell it.
So they I mean, of course, the song La Bamba is... he didn't have much of a discography, so you can't really work with a lot of songs.
Yeah.
But they make it work.
Well, also back then it was mostly covers. You know,
Yeah.
not a lot. There wasn't a lot of originals, so for him to even have
Not
originals
just for him.
was interesting.
Elvis did a lot of covers.
I don't think Elvis had an original for like a while into his career.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was
how
back then.
Yeah.
But again, you know, kind of interesting that like, you know, was one of the few guys who had real originals back then. And also, you know, it's really amazing to see this very quick rise that like you watch in a movie and you think it's how ridiculous. Like this is happening too fast. It's not like this. That was his life. That was his career. You know, that's what it was.
Putting a lot of it in that short life. Putting a lot of action in that short life.
And not only that, but like the world around him. You know, you have his mother who's like super proud of him. And then you have Bob, who is jealous of all of his success. He's basically jealous of anybody's success or anybody having attention because he never got the attention from his father that he needed. He found out that the guy who he thought was his father wasn't actually his father, and it messed with him a lot. And I feel bad, if anything, for his mother because, like, you know, she didn't not love Bob. I don't think anyone there hated Bob. They just didn't like how they didn't like how his behavior.
He was his worst enemy.
And there's that scene where, you know, Bob and Richie, they're hanging out, and Richie's telling about this great thing that he did, and Richie's like, "No, tell Mom about what you did. Tell her." And he tells her that he won the contest and that he got $500 worth of art lessons, and the fact that she's glowing for both her boys right there is very important. Because that's the moment where you realize, like, okay, there is no favoritism. The favoritism is in Bob's head because he's insecure about the man he is now.
Yeah. Very complex little character there. But yeah, I mean, I can't really talk much about. I mean, the cinematography's fine.
It's shot like a movie.
It's shot like a movie. It's just telling a story. There's nothing flashy about it.
No,
it's very like.
I definitely think this is a movie where...
It's an 80s biopic.
I definitely think this is a movie where they got the right people, the right actors to play the right people. I mean, dude, Brian Setzer as Eddie Cochran, just perfect casting choices. His performance in that scene in the dressing room, I think, was a really nice touch. Yeah, and, you know, with all the other artists... They used they used the old masters. I think with Richie, it was a mix of like actual Richie Valens stuff, and then if there was stuff that maybe wasn't recorded or they couldn't find, they used I think it was like the singer from Los Lobos. I'm not sure. I did see that they were like whenever he performed, I think they said like they used him for some of the stuff on the soundtrack. So I could be wrong on that one. But and the lip syncing was really good too. Yeah. A lot of times when you do that and you know that's not the singing voice of that person, it can be very jarring and very just like wrong.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel that way here. The director and everybody really knew how to get it and not make it look cheesy and bad. And overall, like I said,
so would you recommend the film?
No. I think it's trash. Absolutely. This is definitely a movie I think anybody can get into. Anybody can get something out of. You know, you don't need to have a film school degree or certificate or whatever to understand it. You know, well acted movie. It's a good time, good story, and all I can say is listen to Richie Valens' music. He's really good.
Yeah, I also recommend it. I'll recommend most music biopics usually. Especially this is a nice one to for the Latin Spanish community.
Yeah.
There's not many aside from like Selena. I can't think of any others.
Even though Richie doesn't know how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
He does say that in the movie. Whether or not that's true, I don't know.
So like it's nice to have more like diverse biopics, especially from the 1980s. I don't think there's many like about Latin or Spanish descent or anything like that. I can't think of any.
Yeah. Also, Lou Diamond Phillips is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you find out he's in something, pay attention.
Watch Young Guns.
Oh, definitely watch Young Guns.
Not Young Guns 2 though.
But no, I think he's an underrated guy who should have got more roles. Should have been more.
So that's our thoughts on La Bamba, Let us know in the comment section below what you think about that film. Is there any other biopics? I don't think there's any other biopics. If there is, let us know. And if it's in the Criterion Collection, we'll watch them. And Leningrad Cowboys don't count. But I'd watch another Leningrad Cowboys,
Yeah.
I think.
Also, this is probably the only time a Criterion movie is going to also have merch that I own. So soak this up, because this is all you're getting.
I'm trying to think. There be anything else that you would have merch for? No? Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so like, subscribe, share. Stay tuned, because October's coming. We got a lot of cool spooky things coming out for you guys. So that's it. So until next time, I'm Wade.
And I'm Scott.
And we'll see you later.